Welcome to my presentation. My name is Dr. Khairul Islam. I am serving as a professor in the Department of Business Administration, Shahjalal University of Science and Technology. And I have two co-authors. One is my student, direct student in my department. And this is actually funded project that is conducted by me in Shahjalal University. So our title of the project is Structural Impediments Towards Sustainable E-commerce Supply Chains in South Asia, Analyzing Infrastructure, Policy, Environmental Challenges. Still, it is an ongoing project. We are not yet finished the project. We have to conduct this process upcoming June 2025. But in that context, we have developed the partial data, and we have submitted the here, and finally it is accepted. That's why I'm very lucky to connect with the new faces in academia. To know the evolution of sustainable supply chain management in emerging economies has got a significant academic attention. Developing countries like South Asian region face unique challenges in implementing some sustainable practices, particularly in rapidly evolving sector like e-commerce. Right now, in our country, we have a unique contribution in e-commerce, but we are facing some problem. That's why we chosen this title and submitted to the in our university research center. Now the question comes, there is a research context. South Asian e-commerce market shows rapid growth with projection reaching 200 billion by 2026, but faces significant challenge in implementing sustainable supply chain practices. Then we choose the critical structural impediments include inadequate transportation infrastructure, digital divides, and regulatory inconsistencies across the region. And only 18% of e-commerce companies invest more than 5% of revenue in sustainable practices, despite evidence showing 30% reduction in carbon emissions and 22% improvement in operational efficiency for high investors. And from this discussion, we have developed two research objectives. One is that is, what are the critical structure impediments affecting the implementation of sustainable practices in Bangladesh? In South Asia, e-commerce supply chains, and how do they impact operational efficiency? Secondly, how do infrastructure, policy, and environmental challenges interact to influence the adoption of sustainable practices in South Asian e-commerce supply chains? Then we have developed research focus actually. We have already taken 200 e-commerce companies across 6 South Asian countries, reveals significant variations in sustainability, adoption rates, and infrastructure quality among different regions. Urban-rural divide significantly impacts in e-commerce sustainability, with urban means areas showing 78% internet penetration compared to 34% in rural areas, affecting last mile delivery efficiency and digital payment adoption. Then growing environmental concerns and regulatory pressures necessitate understanding these structural impediments to develop effective solutions for sustainable e-commerce supply chains in South Asia. Now, we have already reviewed some scholarly papers and some journals, but it still is going on. And from that point of view, we have given some important literature review. One is infrastructure and digital barriers. Hanshaw and Wilson, Kumarian Bhatti, Song, and others identify poor infrastructure, inadequate logistics, and urban-rural digital divide as primary barriers, with limited internet connectivity affecting 44% of rural areas. Then the issues of environmental and policy, Green, Rao, and Faisal highlight rising carbon emissions, packaging waste, and inconsistent regulations across South Asia, with only 18% companies investing significantly in sustainability solutions. Then the implementation challenges, Sylvester, Gomindo, Joe, and others reveal how limited resources, high cost, and technical knowledge gaps affect sustainability adoption, particularly in SMEs where implementation rates remain below 35%. Then previous study on sustainable e-commerce supply chain in South Asia reveals three critical areas of concern. First, on research have Ansho and Wilson and Kumar and Bhatti highlights significant infrastructure and digital development challenges, identifying critical gaps in transportation network and logistic facilities. Their studies document a substantial 44% urban-rural digital connectivity gap, significantly impacting e-commerce operations in rural areas. The second key area focuses on sustainability and environmental impacts. Green and Raw reveal that only 18% of companies make substantial investment in substitution practices. Despite growing concerns about packaging waste, carbon emissions, their research emphasizes the urgent need for resource-efficient solution in e-commerce supply chains. Finally, studies by Sylvester and Govindo examine policy and implementation challenges. Their findings highlight how inconsistent regulations across South Asian countries, combined with the high implementation cost, particularly affect SME, small medium enterprises, ability to adopt sustainability practices. These studies also note the significant impact of limited technical expertise and resources on sustainability initiatives in the region. Then come to the methodology. Sorry. We have already told you that we have already taken 200 e-commerce companies across 6 South Asian countries. There's a cross-sectional analysis and comparative study. Sample selection, stratified random sampling of e-commerce firms, large size companies 35%, medium 45%, and small 20%. And selection criteria and size categorization. Data collection through the two-way. One is primary data and another is secondary data. Primary data, company reports, financial statement, environmental metrics. Secondary, government data and industry reports. Both are survey instruments, document are tools and techniques, survey instrument, document analysis, and database access. Our research variables, independent, here we have taken infrastructure quality, digital adaptation. Secondly, dependent variable sustainability, adoption, and operational efficiency. Like a scale, performance metrics, ROI measurement. Analysis method, multiple regression, factor analysis, time series analysis, and the tools and technique has been used in SPSS software and statistical technique. Quality control, data validation, expert panel view, reliability testing, and cross validation. These are the ways actually we have taken our consideration as a methodology for our research. And analysis and findings, here analysis of structural impediments and digital divide. Through our literature review, we have picked these two. Transportation infrastructure, 72% companies affected. Impact score 4.72 out of 5. And this is the highest impediments. That is the highest barrier for e-commerce supply chain, sustainable e-commerce supply chain. Digital infrastructure, 68% companies affected, 44% urban-rural gap, second highest barrier. Third on internet penetration, urban 78%, rural 34%. and gap is 44%. And this is the major divide between the urban and rural in the South Asian region. South Asian countries, among the South Asian countries. Then last mile delivery, this is very important for e-commerce. Urban 85% and rural 45%, and gap is 40%. There is a significant gap between the rural and urban segment among the South Asian countries. Digital payment adoption, urban 72%, rural 31%, gap is 41%, critical barrier. And e-commerce accessibility, we are actually in developing country and we are going to be developed in the next 20 years, 30 years or more. But that's why there is some e-commerce accessibility all over the world, all over the country, especially in our country, Bangladesh. So in urban case, there's 82% and rural 38%, and gap is 44%. This is one of the major challenge for the e-commerce supply chain sustainable supply chain management in Bangladesh as well as the other South Asian region countries. There is another point we have tried to elaborate or try to find out: sustainability implementation and performance. There is more than investment 5% on revenue that implementation rate all over the companies, especially large, medium, and small. That is 18% company implementation rate, and the performance impact 30% of carbon reduction. If the company is actually less than 3 to 5% of their revenue, and the 35% companies, 25% efficiency gain. Green packaging, 65% adoption and 22 improvement. Renewable energy, 42% adoption and 30% efficiency gain. And waste reduction, 58% adoption and 25% improvement. And finally, carbon monitoring. This is one of the big issue for us, especially in the developing country. There is a 48% adoption and 28% reduction.
Time is almost up.
Almost 2 minutes. I have 2 minutes. Okay. So now comes the conclusion. The analysis reveals critical structural impediments in South Asian e-commerce supply chain, with transportation infrastructure emerging as the most significant barrier, affecting 72% of the companies. A substantial urban-rural digital divide persists with a 44% gap in the internet penetration and the 40% gap in the last mile delivery efficiency. Only 80% of companies invest more than 5% revenue in sustainable practices, though these companies achieve 30% carbon reduction and 22% operational efficiency improvement. And then the implementation of sustainable practices varies significantly across different aspects of operations, with green packaging leading to 60% adoption rate, followed by the waste reduction program, and companies investing in renewable energy demonstrate the highest efficiency improvement in 30%. The study reveals a direct correlation between investment levels and performance outcomes, where higher investment greater than 5% of revenue consistently yield better sustainability and efficiency result. Based on these findings, priority should be given to developing integrated transportation infrastructure and bridging the digital divide through targeted investment in rural connectivity. Companies should increase sustainability investment to at least 5% revenue to achieve optimal performance benefits. Policy harmonization across South Asian countries is essential, particularly environmental standards and cross-border trade regulations. Additionally, establishing regional sustainability benchmark and providing technical support for small, medium-scale industries would accelerate the adoption of sustainable practices across the sector. Still, this research definitely have some limitation, and we are also, I told you earlier, this is an ongoing project. Still, it is not finalized. Geographic constraints actually create some problem for us because we are different countries and the regulation is different. Now the Indian Bangladesh is tense, so it is really tough to go. Bangladeshi and Indian visa is restricted. We want to collect more data from India. Data accessibility, some are restricted. And finally, for list, I said that we will furnish it within June 2025. Thank you all.